We heard Dr. Horowitz refer to this a few minutes ago, David Horowitz. But this is one of the headlines floating around this morning. This one is from The Hill, which I go to quite often to get background on stories. The Hill reports that Republicans are gradually backing off their promise to repeal Obamacare. And they may be thinking about repair, not repeal. Somebody's got to get a hold of their congressman today and let them know that that is unacceptable. We're joined right now by Rachel Bovard, who's with the Heritage Foundation. And Rachel, I worried about something like this, but it seemed like things were moving along fairly well the first 3 or 4 weeks of this new Congress.
Yeah, all signs pointed to yes for a little bit. We heard really encouraging rhetoric from Speaker Paul Ryan and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The House and Senate took the first step toward repealing through reconciliation, which was to pass a budget resolution with instructions for repeal. So all signs were looking good, and now things have sort of stalled, and it's really unfortunate because if there's one golden rule of Washington, it's that Congress, the longer they go without doing something, the more reason they'll find not to do it. So we really need to see action on behalf of Congress if we're going to repeal Obamacare.
So to be clear for people in my listening audience here, I want to explain what Lamar Alexander said about this. And you tell me if you agree or disagree or if it could be part of the problem. He said that it's probably more accurate to say we're going to repair Obamacare because, for example, in the reconciliation procedure that we have in the Senate, we can't repeal all of it. Obamacare wasn't passed by reconciliation, so it can't be repealed by reconciliation. So we can repair the individual market, which is a good place to start. Is that part of the confusion?
So I think there is some confusion, and Lamar Alexander is incorrect in saying Obamacare wasn't passed using reconciliation. Obamacare was partially passed using reconciliation.
Okay.
It was a multiple-step process to get the law in place, and it'll be a multiple-step process to get it out. But using reconciliation to repeal big parts of Obamacare is a necessary first step. This is something Congress can do, and in fact, the Senate did do in 2015. So they've already done it, and every single Republican in the Senate, including Lamar Alexander, voted for that bill, except for Collins and Kirk. There are no more excuses. The first step needs to be repealing parts of Obamacare in reconciliation. The White House has said today that they're going to put out regulations that stabilize the insurance market, so the insurance markets are no longer an excuse. And then in that 2-year phase-out that's built into the repeal bill, Congress can get to the tough work of actually debating what they want to replace this bill. So the first step has to be repealing large parts of Obamacare through reconciliation, and that is something that the Senate has promised they will do, the House has promised they will do, but so far we've seen no action.
Yeah. I've been intrigued when I hear the other side talk about how much it's going to cost. I saw the Congressional Budget Office released a study talking about the hundreds of billions of dollars this might cost to repeal Obamacare. And what they're talking about is tax revenue that would no longer be coming into the government to pay for Obamacare. But I guess my logic overcomes me when I think, well, if we don't have Obamacare anymore, why do we need the hundreds of billions of dollars that we were bringing in additionally to pay for it?
That's right. There were 8 tax increases passed in Obamacare that amounted to $1 trillion of new taxes on American citizens. So that's not great.
Yeah.
So repealing Obamacare has to include repealing those tax increases. And what a lot of those scores or cost estimates don't consider is the fact that there will be a replacement for Obamacare. So they think that all these people are going to go on to Medicare or Medicaid that were covered by Obamacare, when in reality, Republicans, have coalesced around major principles for reforming the private market. And in doing so, coverage will be more affordable and more accessible. And therefore, you're going to take that cost out of the public sector and return it to the private sector.
But I suspect there will still be subsidies of some sort, even if it's some sort of a health care tax credit, something like that. Is that what they've talked about?
So a lot of people have talked about, at least a lot of Republicans have talked about the fact that we need to replace the tax parity, or we need to reform tax parity for healthcare. So essentially saying, yes, people on the insurance market should get the same, in the private market should get the same tax treatment that your employer-sponsored coverage gets. And so what if that, is the form of a credit or a deductible? That still has to be worked out. But Republicans agree that tax treatment needs to be fixed. And that's the thing, right? Republicans cannot make the same mistake the Democrats did in 2009 when they passed Obamacare. They wrote it behind closed doors. Nobody knew it was in it. They jammed it through on Christmas Eve. Remember, Nancy Pelosi famously said, we have to pass Obamacare to find out what's in it.
I do.
This replace plan needs to be debated. Everybody needs to see what's going on. It needs to be transparently discussed. American people need to know, what their lawmakers are talking about doing. So that's why this people want to jam through repeal and replace at the same time. I think that's a mistake. You really need, the entire country sort of paying attention and bought into what the replace plan is going to look like.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely on that one.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
We don't need any more of that, that's for sure. Rachel Bovard from the Heritage Foundation, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, I do appreciate you coming on.
What a horrible woman she.
That was Nancy Pelosi, by the way, I'm talking about there.